Some bands give us, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 albums. Some bands are around for 30 years, and some bands are around for far too little time. Today I'm going to do a viewer-suggested video on 5 bands we definitely should have got more of, coming right up. Hey, it's Russ from the Infectious Groove Podcast and YouTube channel, and today I'm doing a video that was suggested to me as far as bands that we absolutely should have had more of. And some of the names on this list are gargantuan bands, or bands that at least everyone knows of, or had at least one massive hit. But to me, they're bands that we absolutely should have got more of and didn't for one reason or another. First on the list for me, hands down, Skid Row, but with Sebastian Bach. Now, Skid Row has put out tons of material since Sebastian Bach left the band, and they only really had the 3 studio records after Sebastian Bach joined the band and when they got big. A lot of people don't know they have another lead singer before Bach, but everyone knows that classic lineup of Skid Row. To hear the band tell it, there's just no way they're ever going to get along anymore. And if you look at the last 2 efforts they put out, Slave to the Grind and Subhuman Race, masterpieces of hard rock, and I wish we would have had more of them. Another one on the list that, unfortunately, with a lot of these lists, you have to talk about some tragedy. The band Blind Melon, they put out a fantastic debut record, followed it up with a criminally underrated sophomore effort called Soup. There was also a LP of odds and ends and things that weren't quite finished called Nico that came out, I believe, after Shannon Hoon passed away. But because of Shannon Hoon passing away, I just feel like we never got as much Blind Melon material as we really could have and should have. Outside of that, now here's one of the ones that I'm going to say, and you're going to go, I can't believe you're saying we should have more material from such a legendary band. Van Halen, but not Van Halen in the early days. With Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, I really feel like we should have been able to get a lot more material from that era of Van Halen than we did. From the first Van Halen LP in '78 until 1984, in that 6-year span, they put out 6 LPs. But then when Sammy joined in '85, between '85 and '95, over a 10-year span, we only got 4 LPs. And in some fans feel that each LP was better than the last. And because of politicking in the band and various personality clashes and issues and whatnot, Balance ended up being the end of the line for the Sammy Hagar fronted version of Van Halen. And no matter where you stand, even if you're a diehard Dave fan, you have to agree that we should have got more Van Halen material than we ended up with. So I would have loved to have seen more material from the Sammy Hagar era of Van Halen. Another band, now this one's a little odd because they have definitely carried on with the name, but in my opinion they're missing one key component to where I just can't view it as the full band that I loved, and that's Alice in Chains. For me, once Layne Staley passed away, and I say this with all due respect to Jerry Cantrell, Layne was very much the sound of Alice in Chains to me. And I only name Jerry Cantrell in that conversation because he's 50% of the harmonies. His guitar sound absolutely is the sound of Alice in Chains, and I'm not disputing any of that. But for me, Layne Staley's voice is just really like more than 50% of the harmonies, and I know that sounds silly for 2 people, but that's how it hits my ears. And just the whole, even down to the image, and certainly lyric content. Layne Staley wrote some extremely deep lyrics that I don't think that we'll see in the future for Alice in Chains. And one other thing I want to mention too is this is not meant as a disrespectful comment to William Duvall, the gentleman who took over for Layne and has been on the last several Alice in Chains studio records. It's just, for me, I wish we would have got more from that lineup of Alice in Chains, from the one that Sap and Facelift and Dirt and their underrated self-titled LP. Would have loved to have had more of that from Alice in Chains. The last one on the list is a band who has gone through probably as many lineup changes as Kiss, who I think are famous for the most lineup changes of all time. And for the purposes of this video, I'm just using a picture of the classic lineup, the original 5-man group of Guns N' Roses, because there have been, I think currently there's 8 or 9 members in GNR now. At one time during the Illusions tour, there was up to 10 people on stage at one time. But for me, Guns N' Roses is easily the band that I feel that we deserved more music from, and it just doesn't seem like we're ever going to get it. They're still active. They're reunited with most of the classic lineup of the band now, but they just barely sprinkle out music to us now. And this is a band who was absolutely on fire with releases. The debut album comes out in '87. The EP follows in '88. We had to wait till '91 for the next record, but it was 30 songs long, the double LP, Use Your Illusion. Then they put out the cover record, and then we had to wait like 20 years for Chinese Democracy. And even since that release, it's been well over 10 years now, and the only thing they've released since then is 2 studio songs. So for me, GNR tops the list, actually. This isn't even a top 5 video, but for me, GNR is the #1 band that I think we should have got more content from, more original works, some fantastic live albums. We should have got a lot more from Guns N' Roses. That's my 5 bands that came into my head when this topic was suggested to me. These are the first 5 bands that I thought of. I always say I'd love to hear from you in the comment section, so please make sure to drop a comment below. If you disagree with any of them, that's great. I'd love to hear on that too. But who do you think that we definitely should have got more material from over time? I would love to read your comments and interact with you in the comment section below. As I always say in these videos, if you would please make sure to drop a like on the video because that helps the channel grow. And if this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button and check out everything we have on the channel before. Thank you so much for watching.